Broken towers stood like the bones of giants. Roads were cracked, covered in weeds. The air was heavy with dust, and the only sound was the wind moving through empty windows. Once millions of people had lived here. Now only one man walked among the ruins. His name was Daniel Cross. Daniel had been a soldier once before the world fell. Now he was only a survivor. He carried an old rifle, not because it had much ammo left, but because it gave him comfort. Every day was the same. Wake up in the remains of an office building, search for food, search for water, and keep moving. He had not seen another human face in years. Sometimes he wondered if he was the last. At night, when he sat near the fire, he would talk out loud just to hear a voice. He told stories to no one. He laughed at old memories that hurt too much to think about. And deep inside, a small spark of hope still whispered that maybe someone else was alive. Somewhere. But the longer the silence lasted, the more that spark faded. On that night, everything changed. Daniel had just finished eating a can of beans he had found in a broken shop. He lay back on a pile of blankets, staring at the cracked ceiling above. Then the ground shook. At first, he thought it was another collapsing building. But then the sky lit up. A streak of fire burned across the clouds. It wasn't a falling star. Daniel had seen meteors before. This was different. The object was too controlled, moving too straight. His soldier's instincts kicked in. He grabbed his rifle, ran outside, and watched as the burning shape slammed into the earth miles away. The shockwave rattled the city. Birds scattered into the air. Dust fell from broken windows. Daniel's heart raced. A ship, he whispered. No human ships had flown in years. The war had ended with silence. Whoever, or whatever, was inside that ship, it wasn't human. For a long moment, Daniel considered ignoring it. Survival meant avoiding danger. But something pulled at him. Curiosity, maybe, or the deep loneliness that had been eating him alive. He started walking. It took hours to reach the crash site. The night was cold, the wind sharp, but Daniel pushed on. He moved carefully, using the shadows just in case whatever came down was hostile. When he reached a hill, he saw it. The ship was half buried in a crater, glowing with strange blue lights. Its metal skin pulsed like it was alive. Smoke rose into the sky, carrying the smell of burning fuel and alien chemicals. Daniel crouched, studying it. Then he saw movement. A figure stepped out of the wreckage. Tall, slender, not human. Her skin was pale with a faint silver glow under the moonlight. Her hair shimmered like strands of starlight, flowing behind her even when the wind was still. She wore armor unlike anything Daniel had ever seen, elegant but strong, glowing with symbols that shifted like water. Daniel froze. His rifle shook slightly in his hands. The figure turned, and her eyes met his. They were bright violet, glowing softly in the dark. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world seemed to stop around them. Then, in a voice both clear and musical, she spoke. "You," she said. The word was not English, but Daniel understood it. Somehow the meaning slid into his mind. Daniel swallowed hard. He raised his rifle. "Stay where you are." The alien tilted her head as if studying him. Then slowly she lifted her hands, showing she held no weapon. "My mission," she whispered. "Humans." Daniel's chest tightened. His finger hovered near the trigger. He hadn't heard that word, humans, from another living voice in years. "What do you want?" he demanded. The alien stepped closer. Her movements were graceful, almost too perfect. "I am Elira, daughter of the Star Throne. I was sent to this world to find your kind, to bring your strength to my people." Daniel's stomach dropped. "You came for humans?" "Yes," Elira said. Her voice carried sadness now. She looked around at the ruins, at the empty city under the stars. "But I sense there are none." Daniel almost laughed, but it came out bitter. He lowered his rifle just a little. "You're late. You missed the party." Her eyes searched his face. "Are you the only one?" Daniel did not answer right away. He wanted to say no. He wanted to believe there were others hiding somewhere. But deep down he knew the truth. He sighed. "As far as I know, yeah. Just me." Elira's glow dimmed slightly like a flame flickering in the wind. She looked down as if the weight of her mission had suddenly crushed her. "Then my journey is broken. Without humans, my people cannot—" She stopped as if the words were too heavy. Daniel studied her carefully. She was no soldier, not in the way he understood it. She looked strong, yes, but also lost, just like him. You came here expecting thousands, Daniel said quietly. But you found one. Her violet eyes lifted to his. One is more than none. Perhaps enough. The words made Daniel uneasy. He didn't like the way she said enough, like he was just a tool. But there was something else in her voice too. Curiosity, maybe even hope. The wind howled through the ruins. Daniel finally lowered his rifle. He wasn't sure why. Maybe because he saw no threat in her. Maybe because he was tired of being alone. Fine, he muttered. You can stay. But don't expect me to trust you. Elira gave a small nod. Trust is earned. I will not demand it. They stood in silence, two survivors staring at each other under the broken sky. Around them, the ruins of Earth stretched out endless and dead. Yet, for the first time in years, Daniel did not feel completely alone, and far above, in the dark heavens, unseen eyes were already turning toward Earth again. Word count. Breakone 230. The crash site still glowed with faint blue light. Smoke rose into the night air, carrying a sharp alien scent. Daniel stood near the wreckage with his rifle lowered, though his eyes stayed sharp on the stranger. Elira moved with grace as she checked the twisted hull of her ship. Strange symbols flickered across her armor, glowing faintly as if alive. She pressed her palm against the broken metal, whispering words in her own language. The ship responded with soft hums like a wounded creature. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. That thing still works? Elira looked at him. Some system, yes. Others are lost, she sighed, a sound heavy with defeat. Without repairs, it will never fly again. Daniel snorted. Welcome to Earth. Nothing works anymore. For a moment, her violet eyes studied him in silence. Then she spoke softly. You are bitter. He gave a short laugh. Yeah, years of living alone in a graveyard will do that. Elira tilted her head, curious. How long have you been alone? Daniel shrugged. I stopped counting. Could be 5 years. Could be 10. Feels like forever. Something in her expression softened, as if she understood more than she let on. She returned her gaze to the wreck. My mission was clear. I was to find humans, to bring them to my people. Our survival depends on it. Daniel frowned. Your survival depends on us? Yes, she said firmly. Your species is strong, adaptable, resistant to what destroys others. We thought Earth would still hold many of you, but now, her voice trailed off. Now you've got me. Daniel muttered. Perhaps one is enough, she answered. The words made Daniel stiffen. He didn't like being spoken of as if he were cargo. I'm not a resource, he said coldly. Elira's eyes widened slightly, then lowered. I did not mean disrespect. My people see humans as vital. But I see you as more. You are the last voice of your world. That matters. Daniel studied her, searching for any sign of deceit, but her voice carried honesty. For reasons he couldn't explain, he believed her. The night grew colder. Daniel adjusted his jacket. You're going to freeze out here, he said at last. Come on. My shelter's not far. They walked in silence through the ruins. The moonlight glowed on broken steel beams and shattered glass. Elira moved like she was born for the shadows, her steps quiet, almost floating. Daniel carried his rifle, keeping his eyes open for trouble. Even with the world empty, danger never truly vanished. They reached his shelter, a crumbling office tower. Daniel had fortified the lower levels with traps and blocked windows. Inside, a small fire burned in a barrel, casting warm light across the room. Elira paused at the sight of the fire, her eyes reflecting the glow. This is your home? For now, Daniel said, tossing a few more scraps of wood onto the flames. Better than sleeping in the open. She lowered herself onto a broken chair, moving with elegance even in ruin. Daniel offered her a can of beans, one of his few remaining supplies. She studied it with puzzlement. It's food, he explained. Not great, but it'll keep you alive. She touched the metal surface, then pressed a small crystal on her wrist. The can opened on its own, the lid peeling back neatly. Daniel blinked. Well, that's easier than a can opener. Elira took a small bite. Her eyes lit with surprise. Strange, salty, yet warm, Daniel chuckled. Welcome to Earth cuisine. For the first time, he saw her smile. It was faint but real, and for a moment, the firelight made her look less like an alien princess and more like another lost soul. Later that night, as the fire burned low, Daniel asked, So what happened to your people? Why come all this way for humans? Elira's smile faded. She stared into the flames. Our empire is dying, wars, disease, a weakness in our bloodline. For centuries, we searched for strength among the stars. Long ago, we studied your kind in secret. We found something unique in you. Something that lets you survive when others cannot. My mission was to join our blood with yours, to ensure we do not fade away. Daniel's jaw tightened. So what? You came here expecting to gather humans like cattle? Her eyes snapped to his. No, not cattle. Partners, allies. Without your kind, my people may vanish. Without... The city lay under a pale morning light, quiet except for the distant sound of crumbling metal. Daniel moved carefully, scanning broken buildings as he guided Alira through the streets. The air smelled of ash and dust. You've lived here alone all this time? Alira asked softly. Daniel glanced at her, grim-faced. Yeah, ever since everything went wrong. You get used to it. Sort of. Alira's violet eyes studied him, full of curiosity. It must be lonely. Lonely doesn't even start to cover it, Daniel muttered. He didn't want to admit just how hollow the silence made him feel. They entered what used to be a public library. The roof had partially collapsed and books lay scattered like fallen leaves. Daniel paused at the entrance. If you want to understand humans, this is a start. Alira knelt and ran her fingers across a charred book. The letters made no sense to her, yet she felt the weight of them. The ideas, the stories, the memories of generations. Daniel picked up a thick volume, dusting off the cover. This one's about Earth history. Wars, leaders, inventions. Mistakes, too. She looked at him, intrigued. Mistakes? Yeah, humans aren't perfect, Daniel said, smiling faintly. We fight, we lie, we hurt each other. But we survive. Somehow we always survive. That's why your people want us. Our survival instincts are extreme, Alira nodded slowly. She had read about humans in her own studies, but seeing the remnants of Earth made it real. I thought humans were weak, she said quietly. But seeing this, you are strong even in ruins, Daniel shrugged. Strength is what keeps you alive. Doesn't mean you feel strong? They moved deeper into the library. Sunlight streamed through broken windows, highlighting the dust in the air. Alira paused at a row of bookshelves. Tell me about these. Stories, Daniel said. Fiction. We loved imagining other worlds, other lives. Made our lives feel bigger than they really were. Alira picked up a book and opened it. Words flowed like music to her ears, though she did not understand them fully. Humans, you dreamed even when the world was small. Yeah, Daniel said softly. He leaned against a wall, staring at the scattered pages. Dreaming is what makes us keep going even when everything else fails. The air suddenly shifted. A faint hum filled the library, low but persistent. Daniel froze. His soldier instincts flared. They're here again, he muttered. Alira's eyes narrowed. Drones? Yeah, Daniel said. He checked his rifle. They don't stop. Can't let them find us. Follow me. They moved silently through the library, avoiding broken floors and debris. Outside, the city seemed calm, but Daniel knew better. The drones were hiding, waiting. Alira touched his arm. Show me how to fight them. Daniel hesitated. Fighting alone had been easier. He knew every corner, every trap. But now he had to teach her. First rule, he said, don't panic. Second, watch patterns. Third, aim for weak spots. They have them. Alira studied him carefully. Her hands moved instinctively over her armor, scanning her internal systems. I understand. Hours passed as they scavenged for supplies. Daniel showed her how to find water in old pipes, how to spot edible plants growing in cracks, and which buildings were safe to enter. Alira learned quickly, absorbing his knowledge like a sponge. In the evening, they returned to his shelter. The fire burned low. Daniel stretched out, exhausted. You're faster than I expected, he admitted. Alira smiled faintly. Your survival skills are impressive. I understand why humans adapt so well. They sat together, quietly sharing the fire. Daniel brought up an old photo he had found buried in rubble, a family smiling on a sunny day long gone. You lost them? Alira asked. Daniel nodded. Years ago. Before everything went wrong. Sometimes I wonder if it would have been better not to survive. Alira's voice was gentle. Survival is never meaningless. You carry your people's memory with you. That is strength. Daniel looked at her, a faint smile breaking through the sorrow. You sound like my therapist. She laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes. I am not trained in human therapy, but I can listen. For the first time in years, Daniel felt a lightness he had forgotten. listening, laughing, talking to another living being. Night fell and the stars filled the sky. They sat on the roof of a ruined building looking out at the city. "Tell me about your people," Daniel said. Elira leaned back, gazing at the heavens. "Our civilization is old. Thousands of years. We built wonders, explored stars, and created life in places where none existed. But we are fragile. War, disease, mistakes. We lose more than we gain sometimes. That is why we sought humans. We saw potential in you, the kind that survives all odds." Daniel nodded slowly. "I get it. Humans are stubborn, maybe. We fight to live even when the odds are against us." "Yes," Elira said softly. "And yet, you also dream, you hope. That is rare among the stars." Daniel looked away, thinking, hope can be dangerous. Makes people careless. But without it, we'd be dead already. Elira's violet eyes met his. "I see hope in you, Daniel. Even after all this time, you carry it." He felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had spent years believing he was alone in a dead world. Now looking at her, he realized he was not completely alone. Someone understood. Someone cared. A faint humming in the distance broke the moment. Daniel tensed. "Drones," he muttered. Elira's armor glowed softly. "Then we fight together." That night the drones came. One flew low along the streets, scanning for life. Daniel fired, hitting its side. Sparks flew, but it did not stop. Another appeared, moving from the opposite direction. Elira raised her hand. Symbols lit across her armor. A beam of energy shot forward, cutting the drone in half. Daniel stared, amazed. She was fast, precise, and deadly. "Not bad for a princess," he said. She smiled faintly. "Not bad for a human soldier either." Together they destroyed the drones, moving in perfect sync. Daniel's training, Elira's alien technology, their shared knowledge, it worked. When the last drone fell, they paused, breathing heavily. The city was silent again, save for the wind. Daniel looked at her. "You learn fast," Elira nodded. "So do you." For the first time, they both understood something important. Survival was no longer just about them individually. Together they were stronger. As they returned to the shelter, Daniel realized that Earth no longer felt completely dead. With Elira beside him, the ruins were still a home. And somewhere deep inside, he felt the stirrings of something he had not felt in years. Hope. The sun barely rose above the ruined skyline, casting long shadows across broken streets. Daniel and Elira had barely slept. The drone attack last night had left both of them tense, heart still pounding from adrenaline. Daniel tightened the straps on his old rifle, scanning the streets with weary eyes. "They'll come back," he muttered. "They always do." Elira's violet eyes glowed faintly in the early light. "I have seen patterns. They hunt in waves. After the first, more will follow. They adapt." Daniel clenched his jaw. "Great. Just what I needed. Adaptable robots chasing me across a dead city." She tilted her head, studying him. "You are not alone anymore. You are stronger than before because we fight together." He looked at her and almost smiled. "Yeah, together. Right." They moved cautiously through the ruins toward a building Daniel had marked as a possible stronghold. The structure was tall, mostly intact, and offered a good view of the surrounding streets. Every step was careful. Every shadow could hide a drone. Halfway there, the ground vibrated beneath their feet. A low hum filled the air, growing louder, sharper. Daniel froze. "They're here," he whispered. Elira nodded. More than before. From the shadows of a collapsed overpass, a dozen drones emerged, sleek and deadly. Their red sensors glowed, scanning the area. Daniel raised his rifle while Elira's hands shimmered with alien energy, symbols flickering across her armor. "Stay close," Daniel said. "Don't make sudden moves." The drones advanced in a formation, circling them. Daniel fired quickly, taking down one, then another. Sparks and smoke rose as the machines fell. But more were coming, always more. Elira moved like a shadow, her energy beams precise, cutting through the drones before they could reach him. Together they were fast, coordinated. Daniel ducked and rolled, firing at the weak points she had taught him to target, while Elira struck with deadly precision. Even in chaos, Daniel felt a strange exhilaration. He had survived wars, disasters, and loneliness, but this, fighting side by side with someone else, someone he trusted, it was different. But then, the drones changed tactics. One leapt high into the air, its body twisting unnaturally. Others split, trying to flank them. Daniel cursed under his breath. They're learning fast. Elira's armor glowed brighter. Yes, they adapt. We must end this quickly. They moved toward a narrow alley where Daniel had set a trap, a fallen car rigged to collapse. As the drones pursued, he ducked behind cover. Now! He shouted. Elira fired her energy beam and Daniel triggered the trap. The car toppled, crushing 3 drones instantly. Sparks flew, alarms screeched, but the rest scattered, retreating into the shadows. Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. That's enough for today. Elira looked at him with a faint smile. For now. But they will return. Always. They spent the rest of the day fortifying the building. Daniel showed her how to use barricades, set traps, and move silently. Elira adapted quickly, combining her alien technology with Daniel's methods. Together, they built a small sanctuary amid the ruins. As night fell, they sat on the rooftop, watching the city in silence. The stars were brighter. The city lay in uneasy silence. Broken streets and fallen towers stretched in every direction. Daniel and Elira had survived another wave of drones, but exhaustion weighed heavily on them both. Daniel sat on a pile of rubble, cleaning his rifle. His hands shook slightly, not from fear but fatigue. They'll come back, he muttered. And next time it might be worse. Elira stood nearby, her armor glowing faintly. Yes, they learn quickly. They will not stop, she glanced at him. And neither can we. Daniel looked up, meeting her violet eyes. For weeks now, she had been his companion, his ally, his connection to the world he thought he had lost. He realized something important. He had begun to depend on her, not just for survival, but for hope. Do you ever get tired? He asked quietly. Elira shook her head. I am designed to endure, but even I feel strain. And I feel something else, she said softly, looking at him. Concern for you, Daniel swallowed. No one had ever said that to him in years. No one had ever looked at him like she did. Yeah, he admitted. I worry about you too. More than I should, her eyes softened. Then we are connected, in ways beyond survival. Daniel nodded, but his mind was already racing. They had survived so far, but survival alone would not be enough. Their food was running low, water scarce. The drones were relentless, and if Elira's empire came looking, they could be trapped. The next morning, they began repairing Elira's ship. The damage was extensive. Twisted metal, broken engines, failing energy cores. It would take weeks to restore, even with her advanced technology. Daniel handed her tools, marveling at how quickly she adapted to human methods. You're fast, he said. Faster than I could ever manage. Elira smiled faintly. You have taught me well. As they worked, a new thought settled between them. A plan. If the ship could be repaired enough, they might escape Earth entirely. But the cost would be high. They would have to draw attention, risk detection by the drones, and possibly by Elira's own people, who might not value Daniel as she did. Daniel paused, wiping sweat from his brow. We might not make it, he said quietly. Elira looked at him, her violet eyes steady. Then we fight. Together. Days passed in a blur of work and danger. Daniel and Elira scavenged for parts, repaired circuits, and reinforced the ship's structure. Each night, drones came, testing their defenses, forcing them to fight, flee, and fight again. Through it all, their bond deepened. Around the fire at night, they shared stories of lost worlds, of victories, and of small joys that had made life worth living. Daniel told her about his childhood, about music, and the simple happiness of walking through a city crowded with people. Elira shared her memories of homeworld celebrations, of twin moons rising over crystal cities and forests where light flowed through every tree. Daniel listened, fascinated, imagining a world so different from the ruins around him. Yet beneath the stories, a tension grew. Daniel knew that when the ship was ready, a decision would be required, a risk that could change everything. One evening, while checking the ship's energy core, Elira spoke carefully. Daniel, we may have a chance to leave this world soon, but it is dangerous. Activating the ship will draw attention. By the drones, yes, and by my people. Daniel frowned. Your people? I thought this was your mission alone. Elira shook her head. I am only one of many. My mission may bring my empire here. They do not see humans as individuals. They see potential. As I said before, you are special to me. To them, you may only be a resource. Daniel's stomach sank. The reality hit him hard. He could escape Earth, but in doing so he might put himself in the hands of an empire that saw him as nothing more than a genetic tool. Elira's voice softened. You have a choice, Daniel. You can remain hidden here, surviving alone, or you can trust me, and risk stepping into the galaxy. He looked at her, feeling the weight of the decision. Staying meant safety, but loneliness. Leaving meant danger, but also hope. And for the first time in years, he didn't want to be alone. I trust you, he said finally. Her eyes widened slightly, then softened into a smile. And I trust you. You are more than I expected, Daniel. More than a survivor. You are remarkable. The next morning, they made the final preparations. Daniel checked the traps around their stronghold, making sure nothing would follow them. Elira calibrated the ship's engines, her hands moving with precision. You ready? She asked, standing beside him. He nodded, gripping his rifle. As ready as I'll ever be. They activated the ship. Energy surged through the hull, lighting the area with a faint blue glow. The ground trembled. Daniel felt a thrill mixed with fear. This was the moment they either succeeded or failed. Outside, the drones began to stir. Sensors picked them up almost immediately. Daniel cursed under his breath. Here we go again. Elira's hands glowed and energy shields rose around the ship. We fight together, she said. Drones swarmed, attacking from every direction. Daniel fired, covering her as she struck with deadly precision. Sparks and smoke filled the air. One drone managed to strike the ship, damaging part of the hull. Hold on, Elira shouted. Energy beams flared, cutting through the machines. Daniel ducked, fired, rolled. Together, they pushed forward, clearing a path for the ship. When the last drone fell, they were battered, exhausted, but alive. The ship was still functional, just barely. Elira turned to Daniel. We must leave now. There is no more time. Daniel hesitated. What if your people don't accept me? She stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. Then we face them together. I will not let harm come to you. You are not just a tool. You are a human. And humans are more than any empire can understand. Daniel nodded, feeling a surge of courage. The bond between them was no longer just trust, it was respect, admiration, and something deeper. They were equals in survival, equals in determination, and perhaps equals in spirit. He climbed into the ship, Elira beside him. The engines roared to life. Energy beams flashed as the ship lifted off the ground, leaving the ruined city behind. The wind tore through the empty streets, carrying away years of silence and sorrow. As they rose into the sky, Daniel looked at her. We made it. Together, Elira smiled faintly. Yes, together, and whatever awaits us, we face it side by side. For the first time in years, Daniel felt truly alive. The city below, the world lost, the loneliness, none of it mattered. They were moving forward into the unknown, carrying humanity's spirit with them. The galaxy awaited, and for Daniel, for Elira, the future had never felt so alive. The stars stretched endlessly before them. Daniel gripped the edge of the ship's console, staring out at the void. Below, Earth shrank to a distant blue marble, fragile and scarred. For years he had believed humanity was gone, swallowed by silence. Now he was alive, not alone, and the galaxy awaited. Elira floated beside him, her violet eyes scanning the controls. Sensors indicate another fleet approaching, she said softly. My people, they are coming to find us, Daniel swallowed hard. Your empire? Yes, she admitted. They do not understand humans. To them you are potential, but I will not let them harm you. Daniel's jaw tightened. He had survived wars, loneliness, drones, and ruin, but facing an empire, that was a different kind of fear. Yet alongside fear, a fire burned. Human stubbornness, the instinct to fight against impossible odds. We face them together, he said. Elira's eyes softened. Yes, together. The fleet appeared like shadows on the edge of space. Massive ships, gleaming with alien technology, moved with precision. Daniel's heart pounded. Thousands of beings, trained and armed, were coming to capture, or worse. They will try to take you, Elira said, but we can fight. We can survive. You must trust me completely. Daniel nodded. I do, and I will fight. Not as a tool, not as a number, but as a human. Elira smiled faintly. Then let them see what humanity is. The first wave of ships fired, energy beams cutting through the void. Daniel's ship rocked as Elira deflected attacks with her shields. Daniel fired the ship's cannons, hitting weak points and causing explosions that rocked the enemy fleet. "They're strong," Daniel muttered, "but not invincible." Alira's voice was calm, steady, full of confidence. "Humans are unpredictable. That is our strength." Daniel realized she was right. The alien fleet had precision, tactics, coordination, but they did not anticipate improvisation, courage, or determination. Humans survived through ingenuity and stubbornness, traits no algorithm could predict. He gripped the controls. "We'll show them." The battle raged across the stars. Daniel and Alira moved with synchronized precision. Drones swarmed the fleet, energy shields flashed, and explosions lit the dark void. Daniel felt alive in a way he never had on Earth. Fear and exhilaration mixed, pushing him forward. Alira guided him through maneuvers he would never have imagined. "Aim for the engines," she shouted. "Hit the cores." Daniel obeyed, firing with careful precision. One by one, enemy ships faltered, their attacks faltering under their combined assault. This is impossible," Daniel whispered to himself. "And yet, we're doing it." Alira's smile was small but genuine. "Impossible is nothing for those who fight together." Suddenly, the flagship appeared, massive, gleaming with authority, a clear command of the alien empire. Daniel and Alira's smaller ship would not survive a direct attack. "We cannot fight them head-on," Daniel said. "We need a plan." Alira nodded. "The flagship controls the fleet. Take it out and the rest will falter. But it is he,